All right, guys. I am extremely excited about this message. The name of this message is going to be Save the Best for Last. And in parentheses, you're next. Save the best for last, you're next. And this sermon is probably going to be the shortest, if not at least one of the shortest sermons I've ever done. Shouldn't take very long. But it will definitely be a message that I believe will uplift people, will encourage people, and I'm just hoping that it be one that when you get finished watching it, you just have some joy about your life, that you have a more positive outlook on how things are going right now, knowing that things can get better. And what I basically want to talk about in this message is this. You may be somebody who has gone through rejection. Maybe you've had people that you've been good to, but it just seems like they overlook you, they undermine you, they constantly pick people over you. It seems like you do all this stuff and put in all this effort, but nothing's good enough. Or maybe you've done so much and you've been sucked so dry, but it seems like somebody else may get credit for the things that you do. And maybe you might do so much and help people and be a blessing to people, and maybe you use your gifts and talents to be good to somebody, or maybe you're just really helpful or really nice to them. But it seems like at the end of the day, there's something about you that they shun, that they push away, and they give the praise and the credit to somebody who maybe looks more the part, or sounds more the part, or somebody that they just have more favor towards, somebody that they really love, and then you have to learn the hard way that maybe they didn't love you the way you thought they did. But the point is, maybe there's some people listening that maybe you feel like some things have played out in your life where you were dealt a harsh hand. Maybe you felt like you had a bitter pill to swallow. Maybe it just seems very unfair, and maybe you think, when will it be my turn or my time or my moment? And maybe you're thinking, when I started out being so good to people, I didn't have something in mind that I wanted in return. I just did it from my heart. I did it from a good place. I did it not necessarily seeking things or awards or rewards in return. I just wanted to be good to folks, and I wanted to do the right thing. And now I just feel like I've been left hanging and taken advantage of, and I'm wondering where my real friends are and why people have suddenly turned their back on me. I don't understand any of this. And maybe you weren't looking for something at the start, but now you're thinking, if everybody else can get their turn to have their special moment and they haven't done much of anything or not nearly what I've done, why can't I just have a moment now? I mean, it's not about that for me, but maybe now I'd like to just see what it's like to get credit for what I've done instead of other people getting credit. Why not I just have a moment where maybe I can just get a quick pat on the back, where maybe somebody's actually good to me in return the way I've been good to them? When do I just have a simple little moment? Why is that such a big deal? Why is it that it seems like there's something about me that people will point and look and say that there's something just not good enough? Why am I going through the rejection and the hurt and the disappointments of all this when I was there for everybody? I don't understand. If any of this applies to you in some kind of way, this message is definitely for you. Basically, what I want to say is this. Yes, your latter days can be greater than your former. In other words, what is to come can be greater than what's in the past. What's going to be in the end can be way better than what happened way back in the day. It can happen. All you have to do is want it, believe it, and start speaking it into existence. Having enough faith to say it, to speak it, and to believe that it will happen, or even to go as far as to believe that it's already happening in the spirit realm but just having the faith and the patience to wait to see it play out, to manifest in our natural physical realm where your eyes can see it. And that's what I'm about to get into. Like I said, the name of this message is Save the Best for Last, and that actually comes from a song, Save the Best for Last. It came out years ago, but I want to talk to you real quick. And I'm about to get into scriptures. I only got 4 verses to read and go over quickly. And then I want to share with you a dream that I had about last year, I believe. And I want to share it, and then I want to give you some encouraging words, and then I'm going to wrap this up. It's going to be quick and simple. But before I get into that, let me tell you real quick about a woman, a celebrity. Her name is Vanessa Williams. Now, Vanessa Williams, when people think of the name, they probably think of the first Black Miss America. And you would be right to think so. And let me tell you just a little bit about her real quick. Back in 1983, I believe it was, there was Vanessa Williams, and she was in the Miss America pageant, this beauty pageant for women who want to be a representation of America. In other words, get a woman from every state who is looked at as a great representative for their state, and then they all compete to be Miss America, the woman that is a great reflection, an outstanding reflection of America, a good representation of it. And every year they crown someone Miss America, and they put this crown or this tiara on her head, and they give her this bouquet of flowers, and she's got the sash going down the side, and all this other stuff. Well, this had been going on for some years, and in 1983, Vanessa Williams was in this pageant, and she won, and she was crowned Miss America 1984. She was the first African American to become Miss America, the woman to represent America for the whole year. A big deal. Well, it seemed good, and a lot of people were excited and happy for her since she was the first black woman for this position. But there were also a lot of people who were racist, a lot of people who were not excited about having her be the face or the poster child or poster woman for America. They just weren't happy about it. And of course, people began to dig in her past. And what ended up happening was some people came across some old nude photos of her. And so this magazine called Penthouse got a hold of these pictures of her naked, and they were getting ready to put them in her magazine without her permission. So some people found out this was going to happen, and some people that were over this pageant got with Vanessa and said, hey, listen, you need to resign. You need to give up your title of Miss America, because let's face it, this isn't going to look good for you or for America. It's not going to be good for the Miss America to be plastered all over this magazine for the world to see, because this is not going to be a good representation of America, right? So that's what happened. She was told, and the pressure was on her, and she was told, you need to give up this crown, you need to step down. And so she did it. She went along with it, and the woman that was runner up to her got to claim her title. Now you might be thinking, well, that was a good thing. It was a good thing that they had her do that, because they were right. And, that's not a great representation for America, not a good thing. And that's understandable, I guess. I could see that. Except for one little issue. Well, look at America now. Just years later, as the years go by, it seems like after that, as the years went by, America became more infatuated with sex more and more and more. And it's kind of like that expression we use today, sex sells. You've got naked women everywhere in all kinds of magazines, or at least half naked everywhere. And everybody's got a porn video out there, and everybody's got a sex tape out there. And the way that it is now, you've got a lot of women who are celebrities, who a lot of young girls today look up to and watch on TV and want to be like them, who they got their career started because of things like sex tapes. You got people like Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian and all these people who started gathering fame all because some video was all over the internet of them having sex with somebody. And then they capitalized on it. Instead of saying, I'm going to be embarrassed, I'm going to make something out of it. I'm going to continue to be famous and have a career. It won't just be 15 minutes of fame. I'm going to drag this out for as long as I can. And so they started getting reality shows, and people were infatuated with them. And so then it got to the point where people would want gossip stories sold about them because they were getting money off of it. They looked at it as, if you're going to tear down my name, I might as well get paid for it. So it became a business. It's a big thing for the paparazzi to spot and watch people and take pictures and try to find them in their worst times and situations and put pictures and videos of folks out there. It just became a big thing to know what the latest celebrity gossip is. It just became a big deal because America just became so infatuated with beauty and sex and materialism and money and gossip and watching famous people and celebrities on TV rise and then fall because they wanted to watch the fall because it made them feel good about themselves. They could say, okay, if somebody that's successful could have a life that can fall apart that easily, that gives me hope. So people just got all into this stuff, and now you've got all these ridiculous reality shows, a lot of which cannot even really be real. We call it reality, but sometimes it can be scripted, but it'll be scripted in such a way that it has enough drama to keep you entertained and to keep you reeled in, so they can keep getting the money and the profit off of you watching this and believing all this stuff. So that's how America is right now. And it's so funny and so ironic how they would back then say, well, this naked picture of you, if it gets put in a magazine, it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for America. We can't have that. But it just, as some years go by, all of a sudden it just seems like that's exactly how everybody becomes famous, by themselves being exposed and put out there, and America shows its true colors. America is crazy about all this stuff. And so now Vanessa Williams, her incident probably would have been a perfect example of America right now because of how far it's gone, right? Think about it. Today, it probably wouldn't have even been as big of a deal. Today, if it happened, they probably wouldn't have even asked her to give the crown up. Let's face it, because there's too many people on TV that we idolize today who have done much worse. In fact, that stuff of the past wouldn't even be their past. It's still their present. They're still doing things and putting stuff out there that is disgusting and gross just to get attention. So if you think about it now, it's like, man, why not just give her the crown back? Good grief. Who are we to talk and say, how dare you, when we idolize all this other mess, right? So check this out, though. Even though that happened, and even though you would think her career would have went crashing down, this is what ended up happening. She ended up singing and doing music, and she had success in that. She had some hit songs. One of those hit songs was a song called Save the Best for Last, which is where this title comes from. You know that song, you go and save the best for last, da-na-na-na-na-na, right? So there was that, and she had some other songs. Not only that, but she was also the one that recorded the song Colors of the Wind in the movie Pocahontas. And you know how it is. Every time Disney comes out with a new animated movie, there's always that one song that everybody has to sing. Kind of like right now, you got the movie Frozen, and everybody wants to sing the song, let it go, right? And then in Lion King, it was, oh, I just can't wait to be king, right? And so in Pocahontas, it was a song, you can paint with all the colors of the wind, right? Well, that was the song Vanessa Williams did, and she got this Academy Award for this song. So she had hit songs on the radio. She had that thing with the Academy Award for the song for the Disney movie. And then not only that, but she became an actress. She was in shows and movies. Then she had her own fashion line. I mean, she had all kinds of success. And now it's said that she's one of the most respected people in the media right now, in TV. She's a very respected person, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that she made a comeback, but she did it with such grace and elegance and dignity that you really had no choice but to kind of respect her. Look at what she went through, but look at how she bounced back in a way that she didn't target people and try to hurt people and get back at them. She just bounced back and just kept going with such ease. Very ladylike. And it just blew people's minds. And the funny thing about it is, it's almost like she spoke it into existence when talking about saving the best for last, because it seemed like that's what happened. It seemed like the best part of her life was saved towards more the end instead of at the beginning. Because if you think about it, well, it would seem as though if you did something like become Miss America, that would be the highest point of your career, because it's only something that one person a year gets to do, but all throughout the year you can have quite a bit of artists and bands have songs on the radio, and a lot of people all over TV and winning Oscars and Academy Awards and Tonys and this and that or whatever. But only one person gets that one chance just once a year to be crowned. So you would think that would be the biggest part of her career, but it seems like a lot of the biggest stuff happened after all that. So that's one of the things I want to say is speak it into existence, because at the end it can turn out so much greater than what you thought it would have been in your past. But also let me say this real quick. You know, a lot of people had to dig and dig to get what they can out of her past because of who she was. Because up until that point, there hadn't been another Miss America that looked like her. So in some people's eyes, because of her race, because of who she was, she didn't, quote unquote, look the part. But it's no different than when David got to be crowned as king in the Bible. If you remember, he also didn't look the part. And there were people that weren't so excited about it at first until they saw how it played out, and they saw how awesome and great of a king he was, because he really had a heart for God and he actually really cared about the people. He wasn't just out to be a hireling and just be out to take advantage of the flock. He really actually cared. So that right there should be words of encouragement right there. Sometimes when you're a little bit different and you're going to be a quote unquote king or quote unquote queen or whatever in the realm of whatever you're doing, if you're a little bit different from what people have seen in the past, they may have a hard time accepting you sometimes and embracing you. But when they see what you can do and they actually take a moment to get to know you and see what you're about and see that maybe you're not the bad person you've been painted to be, that's when things really take place how they should. People went from having disgust at Vanessa Williams at a time where she should have been crowned, and then next thing you know, way later down the line, she is looked at with such great respect. So let's go into scripture. Real quick, just a few verses I want to look at. Just go with me to Matthew chapter 8. Let's start at verse 5. It says this: And when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Jesus saith unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. A few things to point out just in these few verses. First off, we see here's Jesus coming in, and we see a centurion who is a type of soldier or officer, and he's coming up to Jesus, and he's telling him about a servant that he has back at home who is sick of the palsy, and he wants him healed. So much in this little bit, things that I hadn't caught before, and I want to share what I noticed. It says in verse 6 that the servant of the centurion was sick of the palsy. Now, when it says sick of the palsy, I want to look at that phrase. When it says sick of the palsy, what it means, or I'll put it this way, how we would say it today, we would say that someone is sick with the palsy. See, sometimes it's important to understand, the lingo in the Bible and how they say things. Sometimes they might say things a little different from how we would. Like if I say I know somebody, it means, I know a lot about them, or maybe I'm friends with them. In other words, if you say their name, I can, picture their face in my mind, and I can tell you, stuff about them. I know them. But then there's also simply knowing of somebody. In other words, I don't really know them on a personal level, but I know who you're talking about. I could point them out in a crowd, but I really couldn't tell you much about them. But a lot of times in the Bible, when it says people knew each other, a lot of times it could mean that they had sex. That's why sometimes it might say, blah, 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 knew each other, and then they conceived a child, or blah, 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 knew, da, 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 and she bare him a child. That's a whole other kind of knowing somebody, but when we're talking about sex today, we don't use knowing somebody as a way of saying, we had sex with them. We might say, well, me and blah, blah, blah got it on, or, you might hear people say stuff like that, but you never really hear people say, well, I knew her last night, if you catch my drift. No, you never hear that. But here when it's saying sick of the palsy, it's how we would say I'm sick with the palsy, or how we would say I'm sick with the flu, sick with the cold, sick with a bad stomach virus, sick with something. In other words, it's just our way of saying that this is the illness I have. This is what I am sick with. And the reason why it's important to understand that us saying sick with something is what they mean when they say sick of something is because when we usually say that we're sick of something, we're not just describing what the illness is, kind of like what they're doing here. When we say we're sick of something, we're telling you the illness, but what we're doing is we're telling you that we're tired of it, right? Think about it. Because we might say, well, I'm sick with the cold, and we're just saying that's what we're sick with. That's what our illness is the cold. But if we say I'm sick of the cold, we usually mean, man, I'm sick and tired of this cold. I'm ready to be better. I'm ready to be well again. I'm tired of sneezing and coughing. That's what we mean. We're not just telling you the illness. We're also explaining to you that we're fed up, basically, that we've had enough of it. Right? That's what we mean when we say we're sick of something. But here in the Bible, when it says sick of the palsy, it's just simply like our way of saying we're sick with something. Does that make sense? Now listen to this. I realized something when reading this, and it's this. Check this out. Even though it's being said that this servant back at home is sick of the palsy, or how we would say sick with it, if you think about it, this centurion is the one who, by our standards, is actually sick of the palsy. Think about it. He's so tired of seeing his servant be sick with the palsy, how we would say it. He's so sick of seeing him struggle. He's so sick of seeing him being tormented. He's tired of it. He's had enough of seeing him go through that. And he's so tired of it that he's so desperate that he's willing to go up to Jesus and take a chance to have him healed, to have his servant healed, because his servant is sick with the palsy, but this centurion is sick of it. How we would say sick of it. So he's saying, oh, I had enough of this. And let me just pause real quick before I finish making the rest of my points. Let me say this. A lot of times we get sick and tired of stuff. And that's when we really start to go somewhere. That's when we really start to make progress, is when we've gotten sick and tired of something and we finally say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm not going to take this anymore. And it all goes back to some things that I've been saying. Last sermon that I did, it was a 3-part sermon called And I'll Run You Into the Ground. And at the beginning of it, I mentioned the song Take Me to the King by Tamala Mann. And I was talking about how even though she's saying, you know, take me to the King, it's like she's talking about submitting to the Lord and giving her all to the Lord. She starts out saying that she's tired. Truth is, I'm tired. And I went on to explain that it's kind of like you're that cult in the Bible that's tied up before Jesus comes, or Jesus sends someone to loose it. You're tied up, but you're not tired of being tied. But when you get tired of being tied, that's the perfect moment that will cause you to submit all and will cause you to be loosed, right? You got to be tired of being tired. And then I also mentioned a sermon I did way back when called When the Church Gets Tina Turner Tired. And I said, you got to be not just sick and tired of being sick and tired. You got to be like Tina Turner. You got to get so tired of the nonsense that somebody can put a gun to your head and you'll say, you know what? If that's what you're going to do it. But if not, leave me alone. I'm not bowing down to you anymore. I've had enough. I want to be free. I'd rather die free than live bound up and be a slave to you anymore. I'm going to have my freedom. And so that's what happens. We get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that's when we can make the most progress. But here in this, it's a little different because in here, the one that's sick might not necessarily be sick and tired of being sick and tired. But the centurion over him is. He's sick of this palsy that his servant has. So I say that to say this. Sometimes you've got to be tired of what you're going through. However, sometimes you just got to get tired of seeing other people go through some stuff. And that ties into something I've been saying. I've been saying for a while now, sometimes I might struggle to stand up for myself. But when I see other people go through some jacked up stuff, that always gives me that extra courage, that extra little bit that I need. Kind of like Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz. She might have been a little scared, but when she saw the scarecrow and the Tin Man and everybody else getting upset and being bullied, that's when she really stood up the most. Sometimes you got to go through things, and sometimes you see other folks go through things. But at some point as Christians, we've got to stand up. We got to know when to be humble, but when to be bold. And we got to know that it's important to speak things into existence because there is power in the tongue. There is life and death in the tongue. So it's important that we speak life over ourselves and over each other. So that's what's happening. He's sick. He's the one, by the way we would say things, the centurion is actually the one that's sick of the palsy, even though he's saying it's his servant, but how we would say it is his servant is sick with the palsy. Does that make sense? Okay, so now that I've explained that, let me say this. So he's saying, you got to help my servant, but here's the awesome thing. A couple of awesome things. We see where Jesus offers to go and heal him, but the centurion says, you know, you can speak it. You don't have to go, just say the word and he'll be healed. And we see the faith that he has. He has so much faith in just speaking life into a situation and speaking healing. That's what he says to Jesus. I have the faith that you simply speaking it will cause it to happen. As a matter of fact, if you go down and keep reading, we see that Jesus just marvels at his faith. He loves it because he really stood out in a way with how much he believed in him just speaking something. And we as Christians have that power because of what Jesus did for us on the cross. We have the same power to speak life into situations. But now here's the last point I want to make. This shows you just how sick and tired he was and how desperate he was for his servant to be healed. It says he was a centurion, and like I said, that's a type of soldier. Well, let me tell you what type of soldier or officer this is. A Roman soldier or officer. Why do I bring that up? Well, because of who he is, because of the Roman background, there's a good chance that maybe he grew up or at least spent a lot of time in paganism. He probably has been in places surrounded by people who have worshiped false gods because of his background. And so him coming up to Jesus and acknowledging him not only as someone who can heal, but someone who just by him speaking can heal, that says a lot. It would say a lot for somebody who might be of an Israelite background or something like that. But when you have somebody of a Roman background who's been around people who are big into paganism and worshiping false gods, and here he comes out of all that and comes up to Jesus and says, you know, not only can I believe you for healing, but I believe just you speaking it, that shows you that either he really views him as God or the Son of God, or he at least thinks enough of him to think that he's greater and more powerful than any of these other gods that he's ever known. So that was a risky thing for him, because he could have caught hell for going to Jesus from people back home. But he takes the risk because he's so tired and devastated for his servant that he would take the risk of going up to Jesus and saying, I know you can do this. That's how we have to be. We've got to be so desperate, it doesn't matter what the cost is. We've got to want to hunger after God. Now I'm going to share this dream and I'm going to wrap this up. I didn't think I would go over 30, but it's just not going over 30 minutes, but that's fine. I'm almost done. I had this dream. Well, a couple of years ago, I was a part of this Christian organization. And the year after that, I had quit going. And when I left, I remember telling them, you know, hey, I really don't want to leave. But here's the thing. You know, I've had some funny feelings about some stuff. And I had this dream. And it was like God was revealing some stuff to me. And I know that I've got to go. I'm sorry. I love y'all. You know, all that good stuff. And I didn't ever go into detail about what I saw in the dream. But I want to share this as words of encouragement for some of y'all. So in this dream, me and these people, all the people from this Christian organization, were all on a school bus. And we're on this bus, and we're going up, we're going higher, things are going good, and then all of a sudden, whoever the driver is, who obviously must be the one leading the whole pack, you know, leading everybody on the bus, it's like he hits the gas really hard and goes flying and goes off the side of the road and lands on a bottom part of the road. And what he does is he starts to take everybody on the bus on a detour. Instead of taking them where God's want them to go, he goes on a detour. And so when this bus comes crashing down onto a bottom part of the road, you hear people screaming and hollering, and they're looking around in confusion like, what's going on? You know, oh my goodness, what's this about? And so I remember thinking, oh no, you know, I had this thought process of, you know, I got to do something about this. And I remember there were these openings on the top of the bus where you could pull this handle and open up this little doorway to get out. And basically it was like I had this plan to kind of like how on the cartoons, when you see a person sitting on a seat or standing somewhere and a person presses the button and this spring pops up and shoots them up out of the chair or up off the floor into the air. It was like I was going to try to help spring people up out of this bus, right? So I'm trying to open the door, but it's full of, this doorway is just full of just junk. So I'm moving all this stuff around to open up the way to this handle on this door to get it open. Well, anyway, what ends up happening is I accidentally dropped this book on this guy's head, this really young guy. He's sitting in his seat and a book falls and hits him on the top of the head. And of course, book, knowledge, things to learn, make sense because it's a school bus. We're supposed to be learning, getting higher learning, but somebody driving is like, nope, not doing this higher learning. I'm taking y'all on a detour. We're just supposed to go around some circles, but we're not going to go all the way up. And so this book of learning falls and hits this guy on the head. And he gets mad at me because of it. He's like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? He was mad about the learning. He was mad about me trying to get the door open. He was just mad about all of what I was doing. And he was wondering why I was doing it and didn't know why I wouldn't stop, even though I wasn't doing anything bad. So, and the funny thing about it is, recently, that same guy in the dream actually recently kind of lashed out at me on Facebook, and it didn't offend me. I expected it. It just seemed like it took longer than I thought it would for it to happen, but I kind of saw it coming. I knew if anybody would really lash out at me because of the things that I would be teaching in my sermons, it'd probably be him. So it, it happened. So it wasn't a surprise. But anyway, that happened. So what ended up happening was when the bus had stopped somewhere, I ended up finding a way to sneak off this bus. So I get off, and I'm like, trying to make my great getaway, because I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do these detours. I'm trying to get to the destination. So what ends up happening is I end up in the neighborhood that I had grew up in, and I'm walking. And I'm thinking, oh man, when I turn around here, I'm gonna be home. So I'm walking quickly. I'm going. And when I get close to the sidewalk that leads up to that apartment, it was like I could sense somebody coming up behind me. So I turn around, and this woman is coming up. Now let me say something about this woman. This woman, she was not a part of this organization or anything like that, but I understand why she was in the dream. This woman was somebody who, basically, she was somebody who lived in that neighborhood that I grew up in. And I had heard some things from a family member of mine about this woman, because a family member of mine was talking to somebody about this woman. And what she had said about her was that she was really big on trying to impress people, and she was really big on trying to make it seem like she had more money than what she had, which is why it caused her to have so much financial issues that she had. She was keeping up with the Joneses, if you will. And I'd also heard the story about her, about how at the church that she was going to, the church was having some little fun thing, little activity they were doing, and they were having a drawing where, everybody puts their name in, and you draw your name out, and, you might win something, get a prize. Well, they were having a drawing, and it wasn't supposed to be for the preachers. It was supposed to be for the congregation. Well, this particular woman that I'm talking about, I had heard that what she did was she had wrote down the pastor's name and put it in there, purposely put it in there, even though she wasn't supposed to put it in with the other names. But she also purposely pulled out his name just to go and present him with the award and to be like, pat him and be like, here you go. It was her way of really rubbing elbows with him and saying, hey, I got your back, in a way that wasn't necessary. But that was just her thing. She had to be in with whoever was high up in anything that she was in. She had to just rub them elbows with the higher ups, even if it meant doing some not so nice things and not so Christian-y things to do it. But that was her thing. So anyway, in the dream, when I turned to see who was coming up, it was that woman. I'm just going to call her Martha. That's just the name I'm going to give her. So Martha, she comes up, and the funny thing is, she's known for not going very fast, for not walking very fast, right? And when she does, she's known for taking really small steps when she is trying to go fast. Well, in this dream, it's like I can't even see her feet because she's going so fast. Kind of like in the cartoons when you see the road runner coming up and the feet are, going so fast. It's like in a circular motion. You can't really even see the feet that well. She's coming up to me full speed ahead, just flying towards me. and when she finally gets to me, which only takes a second, she gets to me and she's in my face and she's yelling, "You can't do this. You can't do that." And sometimes in these dreams that I have, either I can sense what a person means even if they don't say much, or even if they don't say anything at all. When they look at me, it's like my spirit can sense what it is that they're saying or trying to say to me. It's like I still know what they're saying. So even though she was just simply saying, "You can't do this," what I felt she was saying was, the one in authority here, the leader of this, that was riding this bus, or that was driving this bus, you can't do that. He's going to be upset. You can't, make authority mad. You need to just do what they say. Don't worry about what's right or wrong. You need to do this, and I'm going to, because that was her thing, pleasing everybody high up, regardless of if it was right or wrong. That was just her thing. That she was trying to be in with everybody, so she was big on letting people know, hey, whatever you want, I'm going to do it. I got your back. It's not about right or wrong. You're high up, so let me do what I need to do to rub them elbows with you. So she was in my face. "Oh no, you can't do this. You can't do this." Like saying, you're fixing to upset some folks back here. You need to be back on that bus. You know what I mean? You can't do this. But I remember after that, I just turned back around. I just turned back around and kept going. I just ignored her, and I just kept going. And as I'm going up this sidewalk, I'm seeing a line of people. And so as I'm walking, these people, they're standing in line, and they got a number attached to them. And it's kind of like when you're watching TV and you see people auditioning for something, like a show where they're going to show off how well they can sing or dance or some type of talent, and you'll see them standing in line waiting their turn to audition, and they all have like this string or this lanyard hanging, and it'll have this paper or something that'll have a number, and it's saying, okay, your number, blah, 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 you need to be behind, da-da-da-da-da, and in front of, da-da-da-da-da. So, for example, you'll have person 33, 34, 35, 36, like that. But when I went up, even though these people were standing in line here in the dream, even though I couldn't see the numbers, somehow I knew and I saw that the numbers weren't in order. I know that doesn't make sense to say I couldn't see the numbers, but I knew they were in order. But somehow it was just like I knew. I didn't see the exact numbers, but I knew the numbers were not in order. So, for example, if you see number 100, you would think the next persons would say 101, 102, but instead it'd be like, for example, 100, 33, 57, like that. So I knew somehow that even though these people were in line waiting for something, they were not in order, but like they should have been, because somebody had put the people in order how they wanted them to be in order. It was about what somebody else wanted. I want you here, then you next, then you next. It wasn't about the right number or who got there first or who really deserved it. It was just about who somebody wanted to be in that order, basically. So as I'm walking to my apartment, I'm walking past people, and all these people standing in line with numbers, they look over at me and they're looking. And I can sense what they're saying with their looks, and it's like they're saying, you can't do this, you can't cut in front of us, you need to go to the back of the line. And I'm looking back at them saying, you don't understand. I've been in line, I've been waiting, and I've been held back purposely, and it's not fair and it's not right. It's my turn, and that right there is my home, and you can't tell me not to go into my own home. You don't even really have permission to be going in there, but I do, because it's mine. I got the key. I can go in there right now. I shouldn't have to wait. I've already waited. I've already been held back. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going home. So I'm walking past everybody, and people are looking at me all mad, and I'm looking like I don't care because this ain't right. And then I go in the door. And there's people, in the living room, in the dining area, around this table, looking at stuff on the table. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, all these people, I'm looking at all these people. And again, there's just people with numbers on them, and they're looking up at me like, what are you doing here? And I'm looking back at them like, what are you doing here? This is my home. You don't live here. What are you doing here? So I walk past them and I go through the hallway and I open the door to what was my bedroom growing up, right? So I go in there, I go in there, and all these people are all crowded up in my room. And they're all picking up stuff and holding things that belong to me. They're my possessions that were in my room. They're holding this stuff and they want it. You can see they want it for themselves and they want to use it. But the funny thing about it was they didn't know how to operate any of my stuff. They were looking at it and it was simple. I could have told them how to work the stuff, but I wasn't going to do that. But they were really looking at it like, and it'd be simple stuff, but they didn't know how to work the stuff they were holding. They were like, looking like, how do you make this work? How do you operate this thing? So they're picking up all my stuff and looking at it like, how do you make this work? Because they want to use it for themselves, but they don't know how. I'm the only one that knows how to operate my stuff. So I'm in the room and I'm looking at all these people, and it's like in me, I just feel just so I don't even know the word for it, but I was just so fed up. It was just like I had had enough. I was ready to put my foot down. I was like, y'all need to get out of my room. It was like, I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't want strangers in my room. I don't know y'all. Leave my stuff alone. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just like, oh no. So I get so frustrated, and it's like this energy had built up in me. And even though I couldn't hear myself say anything, it was like by the energy I was projecting, it was almost like I had yelled really loud to get everybody's attention. And so everybody in the room, even with it being all noisy and people looking and asking questions about stuff, all of a sudden the whole room got silent and everybody at the same time looked over at me. And right then it was like I was about to open my mouth to say something to basically confront everybody in this room. Like I was about to just give them the whole run. Like, okay, who are you? Actually, I don't care who you are. You're not supposed to be in here. This is not your home. This is not your stuff. This is mine. I've been held back from it. I want it. You can't operate it, obviously. I can. Get out. Like I'm getting ready to just let it all out. Like I had enough. And right before because I had gotten everybody's attention, and right before I opened my mouth to just confront everybody, the dream had ended. So I woke up later and I'm just pondering on this dream, and a lot of it made sense, but I was still thinking to myself, what is all that stuff? What's this stuff about? Stuff. And that was the word I kept using in my mind, this stuff. Well, the funny thing about it is, before I had left this organization, this prophet that I had been keeping up with had said that what God was working on me with and was going to birth out of me was in danger if I had stayed in this organization, right? So when I had announced that I was leaving and then I had left, the same prophet had said, okay, now what is being birthed out in you, about to be birthed out in you, will be healthy, and it will be called something like progress or prosperity or something like that. But it was something good. You did the right thing. You got out. You got it now. Now it's gonna be good. Now you're not in that danger zone anymore, right? So, okay, so that happened. So then I had the dream, right? So what ended up happening was, after I had been pondering about this dream, I remember this same prophet she had put something on Facebook, and she said she said something like, it's almost time to get your stuff, and she had put stuff in quotation marks. Couldn't make this up. She's like, it's almost time to get your stuff. And she was saying, you've been waiting in line. People have rejected you. People have looked over you. And you've waited and waited your turn. longer than you were supposed to have. And she says, the wait is over. It's almost your time. You're next, in capital letters. So it made sense in relation to the dream that I had, because I kept thinking, what is this stuff? What's this stuff about? Whatever it is I wanted, I want my stuff, whatever it is. And that's what she was saying. It's almost time for your stuff. You've been forced to stay in line. People have held you back. You don't have to stay in line anymore. It's almost your time. God has stuff for you. You're next. And I'm thinking, okay, this lines up with this dream. Now, I just want to say this, and I'm fixing to wrap this up. I believe with everything in me, this will be the year that I start to walk into what God has for me, that I start to get the quote-unquote stuff and figure out what home is and all these other things. It's all going to come to play. I believe, and I've been speaking it. I've been speaking it into the atmosphere that I will walk into the prosperity, to my wealthy place, into the ministry that he has for me, into the marriage that he has for me. As time goes by, I'm just going to continue to walk into all that God has for me, all the things that are in store for me. I won't be held back from it by people or naysayers or people that think that they know a better way than God's way. I'm going to walk into it no matter what the enemy throws at me, and I'm going to get all back of whatever the enemy has stolen from me and whatever was meant to be mine that I didn't even know was meant to be mine. I'm going to get it because the people that are trying to have it don't even know how to work it. They just want it for their own reasons. So that's what I've been saying. And the thing is, sometimes things play out that way. Sometimes God allows things to play out so that when you get your greater, you appreciate it more than what you did in the past. You'll know how to use it better. You'll handle it more maturely. Sometimes you just got to save the best for last. Like I noticed a lot of times whenever I eat, like if I go somewhere and someone fixes my plate and they make me something because they've been cooking, and maybe there's something that I don't really like, and then there's something on the plate that I really, really like. And a lot of times I'll eat the stuff that I like the least first, but I'll save what I like the most for last, even if it's not the dessert. Sometimes I'll still save that for last because I want to get all the other stuff out of the way first. And then at the end, I want to savor that is so good to me. And then that aftertaste that I taste will be that of what I last ate, what I love the most, instead of having the aftertaste of something I don't really care about. Sometimes it's better to save the best for last. And sometimes that's how it is. Sometimes that's how it plays out. Saving the best for last. Sometimes it comes later. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I say this, speak it. Start speaking it. In the name of Jesus, I will have this. I will walk into that. And I'm going to share this, and I'm going to wrap this up. Yesterday, I wasn't feeling too good in my gut. It was like all day when I was at work, it was like I felt real funny. All those hours, and then I had gotten home, and see, I sometimes if my stomach feels funny, I know when I go to use the potty and I do number 2, it's gonna come out, whatever it is that isn't sitting right with my stomach. So it didn't happen. I had pottied, I still wasn't feeling all that good. I felt real funny, and so I had came home from work and I decided to do some praise and worship, and I turned on some music, did some praise and worship, and I was just speaking things into the atmosphere. And I remember at one point I put my hand on my stomach and I was saying, whatever this is in me that's causing my stomach not to feel right, it's got to stop. It's got to come out of me. It can't stay. I got to feel good. I got to be healthy. My stomach has to be well. So I had done some more praise and worship, and when I had stopped, it seemed like as soon as I stopped doing my praise and worship and turned the music off, I had this feeling in me like I was about to throw up. So I went outside and threw up all of what it was that made me not feel good. And then I felt great because I had spoke it. I said, you got to come out, and it did. And then last night I slept. I didn't even sleep a whole 8 hours. I slept like maybe 5.5, and it was one of the best sleeps I had ever had in a while. I mean, in a while, I had a good sleep. Sometimes it just comes out later. Sometimes you got to save the best for last, and you got to speak it. I thank you all for listening. I'm going to just try to just pray us out of here. I want to just keep going and ministering to y'all because I'm just feeling so good right now. But let me go ahead and wrap this up. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this message. I thank you for this word. Lord, I love you. You're awesome. You're great. I pray that this word just sinks its teeth into people, that people will get what they need, that they will walk away with joy in their hearts after this message, that they will walk out wanting you to expand their faith so that they would want to believe for more than they already do and believe better, not just for others but for themselves as well, and that we would all start speaking well for ourselves and for each other and believing it and watching how our latter days somehow end up being better than our former. I give you the praise, the glory, and honor in Jesus' name. Amen.